Amanda Whitlock had never worn clothes, this dusty, this coarse, or this downright uncomfortable. The hat scratched her forehead, the boots felt 3 sizes too big, and the oversized shirt swallowed her slender frame. But all of it was necessary, because today she was no longer Amanda Whitlock, wealthy heiress of Pinnegate Estates. She was Andy, the new ranch hand at Rolling Mesa Ranch. She led her borrowed horse up the drive, trying to look confident, even as nerves twisted in her stomach. She couldn't go back, not after being told her father arranged a marriage for her without her consent. She needed escape. She needed freedom. Here, maybe she could carve it out. The ranch was bigger than she expected. Fences stretching like ribs across the land, dust clouds curling under the sun. A handful of ranch hands paused work to eyeball the newcomer. She swallowed, but she didn't expect him. Chris Morgan. He rode in from the side pasture, reins loose in one hand, posture relaxed, but commanding. Sunlight hit his brown hair just right, turning it gold at the edges. His jawline was the kind artist sketched. His eye-sharp assessing locked instantly on her. Amanda stiffened and tipped her hat lower. Chris swung down from his horse. "You, the new hand." His voice was deep, suspicious, already. "Yes, sir," Amanda muttered, keeping her tone low. "Name's Andy." He studied her too long, her heart hammered. Could he see straight through her disguise? "You look small," he said bluntly. "Small, but quick," she replied, trying to sound tough. Chris snorted, the hint of a smirk tugging at his lips. "We'll see about that." He put her to work, immediately hauling feed, checking fence lines, mucking stalls, harder labor than she'd ever imagined. But she forced herself through it, drenched in sweat and shaking by noon. Chris wasn't cruel, but he watched, constantly, like he was waiting for her to slip, to reveal something. At sunset, he approached again. "Not bad," he said gruffly. She blinked. "Sir, you worked hard. Most greenhorns quit by noon." He stepped closer, and she froze. His gaze drifted over her face, not with interest, but calculation, suspicion. "There's something different about you." Her stomach dropped. "Different?" she managed. Chris nodded slowly. "Can't put my finger on it yet, but I will." Then he walked off, leaving Amanda breathless, terrified and unexpectedly drawn to the very man she needed to fool. She hadn't expected this spark. She definitely hadn't planned on him noticing her. But Chris Morgan already was. Amanda learned 2 things quickly. Ranch work was brutal, and Chris Morgan missed nothing. The second day, he watched her saddling a horse. She tried to mimic the motions she'd seen from real cowboys, but her fingers trembled, and she fumbled the cinch. "You tie knots like a city boy," he said. Her pulse spiked. Still learning, that evening, after finishing chores, Amanda slipped toward the creek to wash the grime from her face. She crouched low, splashing water onto her cheeks, relishing the coolness against her overheated skin. "A little fancy for a ranch hand, aren't you?" She spun around. Chris leaned against a tree, arms folded, watching her like a man reading a riddle. "You move different," he said simply. "Different how?" "Like you're hiding something." Her breath caught. Did he know? He stepped closer, eyes softening just a fraction. "Look, Andy, you can tell me if you're in trouble." Her chest tightened. Oh, she was in trouble, but not the kind he thought. "I'm fine," she insisted. Chris sighed, unconvinced. "If you say so." He started to walk off, then paused and looked back. "Just remember, secrets have a way of finding daylight." Amanda's heart raced long after he disappeared into the dusk. He was getting too close. She couldn't slip. Not once. But the worst moment came the next morning. While helping herd cattle, Amanda's hat blew off in the wind. She lunged to catch it, but Chris was right beside her close enough to grab it first. Their eyes locked. Her braid had slipped loose. Too feminine. Too revealing. Chris stared. "Andy," he whispered. "You Ivy." She snatched the hat, slammed it back on, and forced a laugh. "Wind's wild today." He didn't laugh. He didn't speak. He just stared like he'd finally seen a crack in the mask, and Amanda felt the ground shift beneath her boots. 2 days passed. Chris said nothing about what he saw, but he watched Amanda more closely than ever. She worked twice as hard, pushing herself past exhaustion. anything to keep him from prying further. But Chris Morgan had the instincts of a tracker and the patience of a fence post. He waited, silent, observing. One afternoon, a storm rolled in fast. Dark clouds clawed across the sky, lightning ripping through the horizon. The ranch hands scrambled to bring the herd into shelter. Amanda rode out with Chris to round up the strays. Rain hit like thrown gravel, stinging her face as she pressed forward. She shouted over the thunder, "I can help on the ridge." "You'll slip, stay low ground," Chris yelled. But she pushed her horse upward anyway. A crack of thunder startled her mount. The horse reared, and Amanda tumbled hard onto the drenched earth. Breath knocked out, vision spinning. She tried to rise, but her foot was tangled in the stirrup. Chris cursed and galloped toward her. He leaped from his saddle, yanked her foot free, and hauled her upright as the storm roared around them. "You could have been killed," he shouted, gripping her shoulders. "I had it under control," she protested. "No, you didn't." Rain plastered her hair to her cheeks, her hat gone, her shirt soaked. The disguised Chris stared, his voice dropped. "Andy, your hair." Amanda froze. A long lock hung over her shoulder. Feminine, impossible to hide now. Chris's eyes widened in realization, but not anger shock, concern, and something else. Something deeper. "You're not Andy," he breathed. "You're Amanda," she said softly, the storm swallowing her trembling confession. "My name is Amanda Whitlock." His grip loosened, but he didn't step back. "Whitlock, the missing heiress, the posters." "I didn't run because I was kidnapped," she snapped. "I ran because I was being forced to marry a man I barely know." Chris exhaled slowly, staring at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You came here to hide." "Yes, and you thought pretending to be a ranch hand was safer than anything else."
"Yeah."
Lightning struck close, and Chris's hand instinctively tightened around her arm. "We need to get out of this storm now." They mounted his horse both. On the same saddle and he wrapped an arm firmly around her waist to steady her. The contact sent an unexpected warmth through her, even as rain drenched them. Back at the barn, he helped her down gently. The storm thundered on outside, but inside, everything felt strangely still. Chris brushed a wet strand of hair from her cheek. "You should have told me," he murmured. "You would have sent me away." He didn't deny it, but his voice softened, barely audible over the rain. "I'm not sending you anywhere. Not now." And the storm outside suddenly felt quieter than the storm in Amanda's chest. The days after the storm felt different, charged, fragile, and uncertain. Amanda no longer hid who she was. She wore her hair in a loose braid, borrowed cleaner clothes from the ranch owner's wife, and worked beside the other hands without disguise. Some were shocked, some teased her gently, but none judged her. Chris, however, was a puzzle. He kept his distance at first, working quietly, watching her only when he thought she wasn't looking. He was careful, too careful, like he didn't trust himself to get close again. Finally, Amanda approached him near the paddock. "Are you angry?" she asked plainly. Chris leaned on the fence, jaw tight. "Should I be?" "You lied. I had no choice." She stepped beside him. "But you kept my secret." "That's different." "Why?" He didn't answer. "Not at first." "Then," he said quietly, "because the moment you told me your name, everything changed." Amanda's heart thudded, changed. How Chris turned to face her fully. His eyes held something warm, intense, something she'd never expected from the stoic cowboy. "I can't look at you without thinking about the storm. How close I came to losing you." Heat rushed to her cheeks. She swallowed. "Chris," he reached out slowly, almost hesitantly, brushing dust from her sleeve. "I don't know what to do with this feeling." She stepped closer, emboldened. "Maybe you don't have to do anything alone." For a heartbeat, he didn't breathe. Neither did she. Then, a shout shattered the moment. A rider galloped into the yard. One of her father's men. Amanda's blood ran cold. Chris stiffened. "You don't have to go with them. They'll drag me back if I don't," she whispered. But the rider wasn't alone. Two more appeared behind him, armed and stern-faced. They dismounted and blocked the barn entrance. "Amanda," the lead man said tightly, "your father is furious. You are to come home immediately. Chris stepped forward, planting himself between Amanda and the men. She's not going anywhere unless she chooses to. This is none of your concern, Mr. Morgan. Chris didn't budge. It is now. One man reached for Amanda's arm, but she pulled back. Stop treating me like property. I'm not going back. The lead man's voice hardened. You will one way or another. Amanda's breath hitched, but Chris was already moving. He seized the man's wrist, twisting it sharply until the man yelped and dropped hold. Another lunged at Chris, and the ranch hands surged forward in support. Chaos erupted. Shouting, scuffling, boots kicking up dust. Amanda stepped back, trembling. Chris shoved the last man away and turned to her, chest heaving. Amanda, tell them. Tell them what you want. She drew a deep breath. I want to stay. The men hesitated. Then, reluctantly, they mounted their horses and rode off, defeated. When the dust settled, Chris met her gaze with quiet intensity. You chose to stay, he murmured. I chose you. He exhaled, shakily and for the first time. Chris Morgan let himself smile. The ranch felt different, now lighter, brighter. Amanda worked beside Chris openly, no longer burdened by secrets or fear. Every day brought new warmth between them, shared smiles, quiet moments, gentle brushes of hands that sparked something deeper. But with every sunrise, a question lingered in Amanda's heart. What now? One evening, she and Chris rode out to the far pasture to check the fences. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold and rose. Amanda's hair glowed in the fading light, loose from her braid. Chris stared longer than he meant to. You're staring, she teased. He cleared his throat. Just thinking. About what? He hesitated, then spoke softly. How strange fate is. If you hadn't run away, we never would have met. Amanda's smile faded into something more tender. Maybe fate knew what it was doing. They tied their horses and walked along the fence line, their hands brushing occasionally. Finally, Amanda stopped and turned to him. Chris, do you regret helping me? His expression softened instantly. Not for a second. Even though I lied, even though I caused trouble, even though my family might still come looking. He stepped close, so close, her breath caught. Amanda, I'd fight them all again if it meant keeping you safe. Her heart swelled. You're going to make me fall harder if you talk like that. Chris's lips twitched. Maybe I want you to. There it was. The truth neither had dared to say, now hanging between them like a breath, waiting to be exhaled. Amanda reached up, fingers grazing his jaw. Chris, he leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met gently, at first soft, warm, full of unspoken promises. Then deeper, as if both had finally found what they'd been searching for, without knowing it. When they pulled back, the world felt quieter, fuller, right. You know, Amanda whispered, I don't want to run anymore. Good, Chris murmured, brushing his forehead to hers. Because I want you, here, with me. She smiled. I choose this life. I choose this ranch. And I choose you. Chris took her hand, threading his fingers through hers as the sun melted into the horizon. They rode back slowly, side by side. At the barn, he helped her down from her horse, his touch lingering. The ranch hands pretended not to notice, though. Their grins made it impossible to hide what was now clearly blooming between the Heiress ranch hand and the rancher's son. Chris cupped her cheek one more time, voice low. You don't have to hide anymore, Amanda. And I won't, she promised. Because sometimes love isn't found in ballrooms, mansions, or planned futures. Sometimes it's found on dusty trails, in quiet moments, beside the cowboy who sees you truly, sees you even when you're hiding. Amanda had run from a life she didn't want, but she had run straight into the love she needed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.